Hey everybody. Got a few joining in. Gonna let it slow down for just a second. Hope you're all doing well on this sun coming out Wednesday, at least here in Wilmington.
It is gloomy in Raleigh. It has been kind of raining off and on for probably last 12 weeks, 2 weeks. Has been a blessing. We were in drought, and now we officially are out of that drought designation.
That's good. Yeah, it's been rainy here the past several days, which same as up where you are, Bashad. I think we needed the rain. But my wife also needs the sunshine, so I'm glad that the sun's coming out today. All right. Well, I think we've got a good number of people in and it slowed down, so we're going to get this party started. It is 10:31. I'm going to press record, and we're going to call this meeting of the Cape Fear Rural Technical Coordinating Committee, the RTCC, the TCC, to order. And we're going to start with our roll call. So if you're here, I'm going to go through the list of our TCC members. When I get to the bottom of the list, if I haven't called your name, then please put your name and affiliation in the chat. And then we'll move on from there. So, Helen Bunch, Mo Meehan,
Yes.
Nicole Morgan, oh, I see you. Yep, you're there. Bridget Spann, Dylan Bowen, Robert Lewis,
Here.
Josh Ward,
Here.
Marcy Waters,
Here.
Christina Burke, Ron Meredith,
Here.
Jeremy Smith,
Here.
Adrian Cox, or Eric Ritzel.
We're both here.
Okay. For future roll calls, which one of y'all do you want me to have on there?
Eric's presenting today, so you can go with Eric.
Cool.
I'm here.
Same thing, Division 6, Philip or Nathan. I can see you both on there. Philip Hart.
Here. Both of us, yeah.
Okay. Do you have a preference which one I do for roll calls later?
Philip will be presenting, so you can do him.
Okay. From TPD, Bashad.
This is Bashar Nourouzi. Quick note, as you might or may not know, Nazia Sarder has resigned as of first week of basically September due to personal reasons. She has to take care of her family. She will be only in TPD on like Wednesdays. And in meantime, we have a plan to make sure the RPO is taken care of from our side. So Maxime from my group is going to process the invoices, but I will attend. If I cannot attend the TCC, TAC, of course, between now and until we fill that position, please also CC Maxime, and we make sure that there is uninterrupted service to our RPO friends at Cape Fear.
Awesome. Thanks, Bashad.
You're welcome.
Jim Rupp-Calvis. Greer Templar.
Present.
Tom DeBridney.
I'm here.
Yvonne Hatcher.
Here.
Joy Jacobs. Kathy Guidry. She had another meeting, so I know that she won't be able to join. Stephanie Ayers. I see you on there, Stephanie, so don't worry. Sam Boswell's here, and Daniel Adams should not be here. His wife just had a baby, so he should be at home. Okay. And then Helen, I see you on there. I'm going to mark you as here.
Thank you.
All right, good deal. If I didn't call your name again, please put your name and organization in the chat. That'll help me out when I put all the meeting notes together. So thank you. Okay, first item on the agenda, well, technically third item on the agenda is to review the agenda. Does anybody have any additions, any corrections to the agenda as sent out last week? If not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Motion by Helen. Have a second?
I'll second that, Sam.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will roll call the vote. Helen Bunch,
Yes.
Mo Meehan,
Yes.
Nicole Morgan. I see you. Thank you. Robert Lewis,
Yes.
Josh Ward,
Yes.
Marcy Waters,
Yes.
Ron Meredith,
Yes.
Jeremy Smith,
Yes.
Eric Ritzel,
Yes.
Philip Hart, Bashad Narozi.
Hi, and also want to just let you know Nazia just joined us. I will be in the meeting, but Nazia would continue to vote for this round.
Okay, cool. Nazia then?
Yes. Thank you, Bashad. I appreciate it.
Greer Templar,
Yes.
Tom DeBridney,
Yes.
Yvonne Hatcher,
Yes.
Stephanie Ayers, Sam Boswell, yes. Okay, thanks everybody. Next item is review of the minutes. Those were included in the packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting, which was June 3rd, a couple months ago.
Motion to approve.
Okay, a motion from Yvonne. A second?
Second.
Second from Mo. Okay, any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll roll call again. Helen Bunch,
Yes.
Mo Meehan,
Yes.
Nicole Morgan. Thank you. Robert Lewis,
Yes.
Josh Ward,
Yes.
Marcy Waters,
Yes.
Ron Meredith,
Yes.
Jeremy Smith,
Yes.
Eric Ritzel,
Yes.
Philip Hart, Nazia Sarter,
Yes.
Greer Templar,
Yes.
Tom DeBridney,
Yes.
Yvonne Hatcher,
Yes.
Stephanie Ayers.
Yes.
Thank you. And Sam Boswell, yes. Wonderful. We're rolling. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any one in attendance today that has any public comment to make? I did not receive any ahead of the meeting via email or otherwise. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is a few updates to our TCC voting roster. We've had a couple of vacancies open up because of kind of staffing changes across the region. I don't have them here on the screen, but the two changes, one of our Brunswick County municipal voting members, Matt Kirkland, who was with the town of Oak Island, has left that position and is with BSL now. And so that voting spot is vacant currently. Similarly, earlier this year, Jason Robinson, who was with Chadburn, he also had a municipal voting spot for Columbus County, and his departure opened up that voting seat on the TCC. As at least most of you, I think, will know, the way that our TCC roster is structured is that we have two for each of our three counties. We have two voting seats and two alternate seats. If we were to have a voting seat for every municipality in the RPO, that would just kind of get a little out of control, trying to keep up with all the people. And so we select kind of a subset from there. What I would kind of propose, after speaking to a couple of different members specifically in those counties, but welcome to feedback. In Columbus County, Josh Ward from Tabor City, who's been an alternate, to move up to fill that voting seat for a Columbus County municipality. He's in attendance today, as well as in Brunswick County for that vacant voting seat to be filled by Taylor Davis, the planning manager in Oak Island. She's attended the last several RPO meetings, and I think would be a good fit in Matt's spot to keep Oak Island participation. But
Sam, it's Robert. I make a motion to move Josh Ward up from an alternate.
okay. Would you be willing? I think we'll do it all in one big movement. Robert, would you be willing to add Taylor for the Brunswick County spot, and we'll do one single vote for the whole TCC?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We have a second for that motion.
Second.
Second from Mo. Okay. Any discussion on those two spots? Okay, hearing none, I will roll call. Helen Bunch,
Yes.
Mo Meehan,
Yes.
Nicole Morgan, Robert Lewis,
Yes.
Josh Ward.
Abstain?
That's fair. Marcy Waters,
Yes.
Ron Meredith,
Yes.
Jeremy Smith,
Yes.
Eric Ritzel,
Yes.
Philip Hart,
Yes.
Nazia Sarter,
Yes.
Greer Templar,
Yes.
Tom DeBridney,
Yes.
Yvonne Hatcher,
Yes.
Stephanie Ayers,
Yes.
and Sam Boswell, yes. Okay, thanks everybody. For record keeping sake, just so now that even though we have Taylor in the voting seat, we've got one more motion for today when we get to it. For consistency's sake, Nicole, who is an alternate, I'll still call you on the roll call if everybody's good with that, so there's not a random jump in the minutes. Okay. All right, next on our agenda is a presentation from Eric in Division 3, kind of a demo of this new thing that DOT's got called Projects Near Me. So let me, let's see. I need to stop sharing, or wait.
I think it might be sharing now, Sam. Let me know if you see the presentation up.
Sorry, my screen froze a little bit.
It shows a green box on my screen right now for sharing. I don't know if everyone else can see that. It should be a title slide for projects near me.
We see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all see it? Okay, we're good. Go for it, Eric.
All right, well, thank you, Sam. Thanks for everyone coming out today. I know it's virtual, but this is my first time using Zoom to present this presentation. So if something doesn't show up right, I'm going to try to navigate between a few applications and the presentation itself. So let me know if something doesn't appear correct on your end. So good morning. My name is Eric Ritzel. I am the Corridor Development Engineer for Division 3 here of NCDOT. I work closely with a lot of our planning organizations, which are 6 throughout our division and our 6 counties. We regularly coordinate with KPRPO staff and elected officials, and we try to give as much good information as we can across our region. Back in June, and as well as every RPO presentation that we give our project updates in, we try to provide packets of regular scheduled project updates, as well as some highlighted sections at the end of those presentations. Part of those updates we had highlighted back in June was a new tool and resource that we saw as very useful for people interested in transportation from the public side, as well as us as the workers in this field. And that was noted as projects near me. That information was given to us and was distributed to the public in the end of spring. And we just started to use it and get more acclimated with it, both on the PO side from Sam's point of view, as well as within the division. After some initial conversations between us kind of promoting this and getting a little more user-friendly with it, we felt that it would be helpful to have a brief overview of the application, where the data comes from, how it can be better used to understand transportation projects, specifically in Division 3. However, this application does span across the state. To support that discussion, Division 3 reached out and tried to get some more additional background information to the application, Projects Near Me. Just to kind of kick it off, to understand where this comes from, is it was an application developed by NCDOT's IT systems. It supports with IT analysts throughout the state, contractors, as well as state IT oversight. So what's the purpose of this application? Let's start there. So Projects Near Me was developed to provide transparency, as well as easily accessible project information for everyone to access. Historically, project information from DOT projects have been existent to the public through different systems, data sources. And while that information was public, it wasn't always as easily accessible or to locate or understand, or compiled into one source of information. So what Projects Near Me does effectively is to bring all of that information together in a single map-based interface, where users can easily access and identify projects occurring in their community or along their travel routes or what have you. One statement that was shared with me from the project development team who came up with this application that I thought summarized it pretty well in their goal was, if anyone was traveling throughout North Carolina's roads and they happened to see traffic control devices out on the street, their hope would be that there'd be a corresponding pin to that project on the map that somebody could access either from their phone or from their laptop. And they could look up project details, who they could contact to better understand that project. On the screen here for this next slide, it just highlights a few of the main user windows that you'll see when using the application. You'll see that there's a map, there's filters, there's project details, and settings. Simply put, Projects Near Me is a tool that displays transportation projects across North Carolina on an interactive map. Users can search for projects by location, they can search by county, project number. They also can view information related to those projects specifically. The application is intended to provide a single point of access to information that already exists. It's already out there within DOT's systems, but it really helps answer those main questions of what project is this, what phase is it in, where can I find additional information, who and where can I contact directly to ask the question or state a concern. So in importance of what the project is, I think it's important also to note what it is not. So the key idea for this was a visualization layer. It's user-friendly. That's the idea, and it's automatically updated. However, it is not a data management system. It is not a project management system in a way. It's not new data that's coming together. It is not a tool where users manually enter project information. The information is not necessarily new, and it's not there. It wasn't there before, but rather Project Near Me simply brings all that information together for the public. For example, if what we see is being built or planned, that's the type of highlighted projects we're trying to see. There's other applications out there such as TIMS or Drive-NC that show real-time roadway conditions. So rather than creating new data, this application serves as a visualization layer over existing NCDOT systems. A goal with this was to avoid any new data, instead to focus on using information that was already collected through existing systems and hopefully presenting it in a clearer and more user-friendly way. So now that we know what it's not, we can look at a little more in detail where all this information is coming from. And the point of this slide here is to honestly overwhelm everyone a little bit, but hopefully organize it in a way that we can see the usefulness of what the goal was with this project. So how are projects advertised already throughout the state is where these main 9 data sets are being pulled together. So from these current data sets that are already publicly available, such as the STIP, we have our high profile projects and studies. We have our comprehensive project list known as CPL, which relates back to our SAP data. That's a database of how we pay out and manage projects throughout the state. We pull from non-STIP projects that utilize SAP, HiCAMS, GIS data. HiCAMS is noted separately as well. It's its own application. There's a GIS database for safety projects, spot mobility projects, which is another GIS database, active construction projects, public involvement. Those are our 9 main data sets. So these are something that we have access to. Everyone can kind of look into these. However, you can see just from this slide alone, there's a lot that's out there. So effectively what they've tried to do is, tabulate all that information into kind of a more detailed structure and then have that into a user face that's a visualization layer of a map. So it just really helps illustrate all of that information that's already existing into a new application that's a little more user-friendly. So before we get into looking at the application itself, I just want to give some additional information in terms of where we're at for the development of these projects being displayed. And I think it's important to go back to the beginning goal, which was we wanted to provide public access to project information that automatically updates. So without a need for manual maintenance, they are managing this system across the entire state. And obviously we're focused a lot on our area, but for us to request every individual project to be manually monitored and through its development process, construction, and then closeout can be quite cumbersome. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of projects that are out there, but basically it pulls all of those data sets together. And there is gaps that we've identified with the project development team. And we just wanted to showcase one of those for an example so you guys can get a little bit better awareness. But when I talked with the project development team, they said the primary reason a project that you might see that is funded and is moving forward, either in development, construction, or closeout, is most likely due to the GIS coordinates that would be attached to that project when it is submitted for funding. Not every project has geospatial data that's connected to it. So it's not so much that the project isn't there. It's just not able to be visually seen on the map. So there are other cases as well that could be archive projects. They could be removed projects at some point, or there could be a closeout system that we're working through and it's no longer feeding into the application. So some things might not have happened in an order that would have been as beneficial for the public to see. There's situations that there could be active projects that are tied to systems and contract records that just don't support that geospatial data was kind of the main concern that we had seen. And a great example of this is the one seen on the screen here, which is project HE0018 in New Hanover County. It's an active project in development and it appears on our CPL and Connect website. It has internal planning tools that are used for this. However, it does not show up for the Projects Near Me application. And the primary reason for this project in particular is due to its GIS mapping attributes are just not involved with the tracking of this project. So it doesn't show up as a visualization layer for the map. It is still being tracked. It's just not being shown. So they are working through those gaps. The development team is aware of those constraints, and they're trying to work through those with the appropriate authority figures who oversee those projects. If you happen to see one, I'm going to have at the end of the presentation here some of the main contacts back to the development team. You can feel free to reach out to them directly if you have a concern with the project, or you can come back to myself or Adrian or someone with Division 3, and we can try to ask those questions on your behalf as well. So with that overview, I'd like to spend the remainder of the presentation looking through and demonstrating the application itself, just to show how that information can be better accessed through the application. For everyone right now, if you'd like to, you can play along at home. You can scan the QR code here, or if you just go on Google and type in projects near me with NCDOT on there, it should be one of the first links that show up. I'll just leave this screen on for a second, just to make sure if anyone wants to scan it. Right, I'm gonna close out of this. Let's see how this goes. Sorry, let me see how I can get this. Can you guys see the application on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let me get my notes back. Just make sure I'm not missing something. Tried to curate these as I've been presenting them for individual areas. So I'd like to focus in some projects for Cape Fear RPO, but also some higher priority projects just to showcase what the application has access to. So typically when you open it up and it's the first time you're accessing it, every time I've done it from a new source computer it goes towards like Raleigh. It kind of centralizes it in the map application itself. I just want everyone to be aware, just let the map kind of sit when you first open it. It's pulling in a lot of data, and if you don't minimize the scope of what that project is, or where the window is showing in the settings, it's trying to pull in all that data at once. I recommend zooming in and possibly filtering for an easier way for that project information to show what's all in your window here for your map. So we're going to walk through just navigating the map. We're going to look at just the search options that are here, and then we'll look through some of the project information that's displayed for users when they click on an application, as well as some filtering options. So just starting with this on the left side of the screen, users can see that there's a filtering process that's on here. We have filters by the modes of transportation. You can filter by division, which is also another filtering option. You can search by county at the moment. And these filters help reduce. So if you set up your filter like I have right now for Division 3, it shouldn't be pulling any projects unless if you move that filter or move your mapping window to another division. So right now this is trying to load all the projects in Division 3 that the map has access to for that geospatial data. Users can also identify projects with certain attributes. So there's some attributes here on the bottom. There's some coloring based on whether it's a high profile project, it has public engagement, or is a upcoming project. So when you first open, I mentioned having to zoom in. Applying filters is just an easier way to navigate all of that. We kind of touched on that already. With that, I'll just showcase a few projects. So I'm going to zoom in towards Wilmington just to start off. I realize this isn't directly in Cape Fear RPO's boundary, but I thought it was a good project. There's a lot of people's eyes are on this. This is Cape Fear Memorial Bridge replacement. You'll see on this application as I zoomed in and clicked the actual pin itself. I'll do that again. So I'm going to close this out. Typically, you'd have your division or some filtering process set up. And let's say, you go over the Cape Fear Memorial Bridge a bunch, you can kind of zoom in here. You'll see that pin. All I did was just zoom in, left clicked on it, and then you start to see the project attributes that come up for that project itself. With this project in particular, which is one reason why I highlighted it, it has all three different of the data indicators or attributes to the project. So it's noted as a high profile project. NCDOT's engagement hub has access links to it, as well as noting that it's an upcoming project. From here, we can also see that there in the engagement hub has links back to public engagement platforms. So if there's additional sources that someone be able to get in contact with of the DOT, they have access to go through that link. There's a quick description for the project that it breaks down, as well as a local map. One thing with the local map it's interesting to note, but again, it's another source of data that it's trying to pull together. But you'll see within this smaller local map, I can actually interact with it, and it shows some of the right-of-way lines. Now these are all off of GIS, so just take that with a grain of salt. But that is one attribute to this that might be helpful to identify where different parcels might be affecting a project in particular. As we scroll down, there's milestones, and being that this project is still under development, we have notes for right-of-way acquisition and as well as contract bidding. Contact information in relation to the DOT is noted here as David Leonard from one of our project development managers. That engagement hub link, as I mentioned previously, and then our planning organization links. Whereas this one is in Wilmington's MPO. It has Mike Kozlowski's contact information. But that's the basic gist for this project in particular. So the next one, to get into Cape Fear RPO's region, into Pender County, I'm going to make my way up to Surf City. And we're going to look at R5900, which includes intersection improvements as the main scope for NC 210 and NC 50, or Roland Ave and Belt Road in Surf City. The example that's on here is a little different because it's in Cape Fear RPO's region. And if I scroll down similarly and I go to our contact information, we have a different project manager who's associated to this project at the moment, as well as we have our contacts back to our planning organization for Cape Fear RPO and listing Sam as that main contact for the planning work. This one, as I scroll back up, it does have two of the attribute indicators on here, such as the engagement hub link and noting that it is an upcoming project. It follows that same description, and then it shows the milestones. Now you'll see in the local map here, it doesn't show any of those parcels, but if I zoom in, you'll start to see that they should appear. You can faintly see those blue lines. It kind of shows those parcels, but it's tougher to see as you zoom out. And I believe, yeah, once you go too far out, they actually go away. But just another little bit of an attribute you can utilize if you're trying to see where parcel lines might sit roughly. Another project I want to show in contrast to development, I'm going to make my way just a little bit to the west and south, is R3300B, which is our northern leg of our Hampstead bypass. The difference of this project in comparison to the others, it's a construction project. So as we review the milestones, we see that those have changed. So we have a check mark with a green flag, essentially is stating that this project has been awarded. It has begun work, and it has an estimated completion date, which is noted currently as winter of 2027 to 2028. Contact information shifts as well to DOT as a project moves into construction, which we have our resident engineer, Brad Haste, as well as our contractor information back to them. So who's the selected contractor working out there? And then in a construction page, it has a project page associated for that as well. This one is noted within the region for WMPO, but I know we start to get really close because we're getting up there. But just to note, that project is under construction for this region. And another project I want to show, so we touched on a lot of bigger high-profile highway projects. This application does include, just as we talked about in filtering for different modes, if we go in towards Southport, there's a bike and ped project that's noted on here, and that's our EB 5982. It has an attribute as an upcoming project. It shows that local map, the description for that project, and then bidding expectations at the moment where it sits. Now, being that this is a local project, it changes a little bit here because we're coordinating with the city of Southport on this, but we do have our coordinator for our local projects noted on here is Ron Van Cleef for the DOT contact. But just wanted to showcase a different mode of transportation, a smaller profile project in terms of the other projects we were looking at, but it does showcase these projects as well. Interestingly enough, Mo and I have been working on this project kind of a little bit together here. One of our TAP projects actually that has moved to construction is at 9th Street and 211. And we've had a lot of work from getting funding and upgrades to the signals there to hopefully support that project to keep moving forward. So I just wanted to highlight that project in particular. So overall, these examples demonstrate the purpose of projects near me. It's for anyone who might be a resident, elected official, or a transportation partner that wants a way to quickly access and locate transportation projects, understand the purpose, the current status, and identify those appropriate contacts and possibly additional information. So I'm going to go back to my presentation to wrap up. Pardon me. Sorry about that. Should have started on the current slide. So that's really all I have in terms of presenting. I just want to give the context and thanks to the development team that I worked with and getting some of this information together. It's Jason Stritch from NCDOT's Information Technology. They had questions for as far as access and functionality. He's able to answer a lot of those questions to the application. Chip Lichtenwallner, I apologize if I'm butchering his last name. His first name's Ronald, but he was a pre-construction unit manager, and he had questions related to data and content. So where they're pulling all that information on. So he's the main point of contact that's been working through getting a lot of that geospatial data to kind of connect the lines and get more of those applications to show. So those are the two main contacts from the development team that I was working through, as well as I have our division engineer on here and myself. And you feel free to reach out to anyone on this page if you happen to see something that you'd like to question, or if we can dive down that rabbit hole. I do want to mention there's a few updates since we have been promoting this since the June lists. Basically, the development team has been including more projects that are being displayed, such as safety and spot mobility projects that are in design. They're including more projects that are on the CPL, and since June, there's been about 60 projects that have been added to the map. There's been data quality improvements that are ongoing from older high cams records. An example of this was R2247CA. I don't know where that project is, but that was one of the updates they've been referencing back to me. And they said it's displaying correctly now after an old contract was changing it to archived. So they also have improved data integration from different sources that they're pulling together. They called out SAP and HiCams were specific data sources that they've been working on. They're also working on location information to be expanded, such as a filtering process for municipality boundaries and possibly town and city limits as another filtering. That has not been implemented on the application that's been live to the public, but that's one of the goals they're working towards. And just to note, it's an evolving tool. This is essentially a great stepping stone that we see this as to trying to get a one-stop shop for all of this information to be accessed across the state. There is a lot of projects that we oversee, and it's a lot of stakeholders that are at hand here. So there's definitely room for improvements, but we just hope that you can recognize that this is a good stepping stone. It's a good starting point for us. So with that, I just want to say thank you, and I can take any questions. If there is a specific project you'd like to review, I just ask it probably be best if we talked separately. It might be tough for me to navigate that just in the presentation for means of time, but if anyone has any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to take them.
I'd just like to say thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. No problem. This has been pretty. It's nice that I have another team I can work with. So honestly, a lot of the weight was on their shoulders. But we'll stay up to date with them and try to advocate for anyone that has questions or concerns that runs into it. And hopefully it's ever evolving and is more user friendly. All right.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. I'll try to close this out.
No, you're good. Yeah, just echoing what Eric said. Feel free, by all means, please, to get on the Projects Near Me site. And as, I don't know, one way to say it, like, look for everything you can look for. Essentially, try to break it if you can, like find where it might kind of come up short, and any feedback that you find or that we can get through that would be helpful. So hopefully it's a good resource, and also don't be afraid to poke around and see if there is something missing or something that needs to be updated, because that's the type of feedback that we would definitely love to have.
They're still considering as in beta at the moment, just for everyone's knowledge. But truthfully, I think it's going to constantly be in beta to a certain degree. Like this is just going to be an ever functioning application. So this is the first one that was put out to like public. So everyone has access to it. We definitely were trying to get ahead of as much as we can and try to identify those issues sooner than later. So if you find anything, we welcome it and we'd like to discuss it further. So thanks.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Eric. All right, let me get back on my. Okay, can y'all see my screen now?
I see it, Sam. You look good.
Good deal. Oh, shucks. Okay, so next on our agenda, kind of big meaty thing on our agenda today is to go through our prioritization 8.0 or P8 draft point assignments for the regional impact tier of this process. As I tend to do, I'm going to get started with kind of a whirlwind, kind of quick overview of the process, how we got here. I am going to move a little quicker than normal, primarily because I think most of you on this call have already heard me go through a lot of these slides in the past month or two, either from our last TCC meeting or for some of the workshops that we did in our 3 counties. So bear with me, but I just want to make sure that we're setting the stage so that I'm kind of not taking any kind of foundational information for granted here. So the prioritization, it's this process where submitting projects. Those projects get scored based on data. This is all for competition for funding to get programmed or kind of scheduled and funded in the STIP, the State Transportation Improvement Program, which is DOT's 10-year document of scheduled kind of funding projects. You see there on the screen, if we carve this up into 4 steps, long-range planning that, planning organizations like the Cape Fear RPO and our partners kind of always doing. And then we have these kind of 2 halves of our involvement in this process. First half is submitting projects. We did that last year. And then once those projects are scored based on the data, we get to assign local input points, effectively kind of boosting the scores of those projects to give them a little kind of to push forward the ones that are the biggest priority to the local communities. And then once that process is done, they take the final scores, and available funding goes to the highest scoring projects until the funding runs out. And then that creates the new updated STIP. And we do this process roughly every 2 years. Sometimes sometimes a little more than 2 years, but generally speaking, kind of a 2-ish year cycle. This chart shows you where in the cycle we are. As I just mentioned, we're here at the end of the regional impact local input point assignment window. And then we'll go through another round of assigning these local input points later this fall. More on that in a minute. So as I mentioned, we submitted projects last fall in 2025. The projects come from all 6 of these modes: aviation, bike ped, ferry, highway, rail, and transit. I always think it's fun to say that here at the Cape Fear RPO, we're, I think, one of the few planning organizations that we submit projects across all 6. We have interactions with all 6 of those modes in our region. The quantitative scores were released in May. There's a little over 2,100 total projects scored in this process, so it's not a small thing. 82 of those were either fully within the Cape Fear RPO or at least connected. So that doesn't mean that we submitted all 82 of those. Some of those would have been submitted by DOT. Some of those would have been submitted by our planning partners, that border us, whether that be GSATs, WMPO, Lumber River RPO, a couple others. There are 3 different funding categories. The first is that statewide mobility. There's 465 projects eligible there, and of that 465, 43 were selected for funding. That's roughly, 10% or so. Again, this was a breakdown of those 43 to kind of show you where they were, mostly to highlight that, they were in other portions of the state. 2 of the aviation projects actually were here in the region. Of the 25 highway projects, really the closest, there was one in Fayetteville and one in the Albemarle region up in the northeast corner of the state. And then the closest rail projects, again, another in Fayetteville and one in Upper Coastal Plains RPO, it's kind of Wilson area. So I mentioned 3 funding categories. This comes out of your packet, a document we put together a while back. We call our prioritization cheat sheet. There are the 3 funding categories. The statewide mobility, the reason those projects have already been selected for funding is because there's no local input involved in the final score. It's all data. We're now discussing regional impact funding category. And so it's a 70% data, 30% local input. This shows you the eligibility of projects. So this is why, in the past couple months as we've been discussing this, there haven't been bike and ped projects, for example, on the list. That's because at the regional impact tier, standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects are not eligible for funding. Similarly, there haven't been any of our transit projects on the list because to be eligible for regional funding, those transit agents or the transit services need to span more than 2 or more counties. And all 3 of ours in the RPO are single county systems. This was something that that was in the packet last time and that I distributed at our county workshops. Just kind of analysis. I'm going to kind of skip through this. We showed this one. We did a breakdown of the funding or of the various scoring criteria for each project. I'd be happy to. We did it for the statewide projects and for the regional projects. And when we get to our division workshops in October, I'll have the same analysis done for all the projects there. Just to highlight what each of the different scoring criteria, kind of what it consists of, so that you can get a better understanding of why a project scored the way that it did. Sometimes we get a project score back and the initial response might be, I expected that project to score higher. But, then when you look at the criteria, you see, it did score well in this criteria, which is kind of what we expected. But this other criteria, not so much. So it may be that, it did in fact score highly in terms of safety, but did not have the, sufficient congestion to compete with the other projects. And generally speaking, we want all of the criteria to score well in order for the project to kind of rise above the rest. When they released the P8 scores, they gave us a funding snapshot of each of the funding categories. Again, these are just a snapshot, so they not only can change, but they probably will change by the time it's all said and done. For the regional categories, Columbus County is in Region C, and there's a little over $500 million available as of the end of May. Region B, which has Pender and Brunswick, there's about $150 million available for projects. So that was something that we, in our county workshops, kept in mind as we were discussing kind of project priority. If it's a project that is in either Pender or Brunswick County, but it's $300 or $400 million, it wasn't a realistic get this time around, with there only being $150 million on the table. And so we'll use those same numbers to kind of guide our conversations with the division projects a couple weeks from now. This is just another visualization showing how the local input factors into the final scoring, specifically just looking at regional, because that's what we're talking about today. All of the projects are on a scale of 1 to 70, actually. And then if we assign the full allotment of local input points that we can, which is 100, then you can kind of imagine that as adding 15 points to that score. So if a project scored a 50 out of that 70, and RPO puts full local input points on it, now effectively that score is a 65. And then if the division also puts points on it, now that score is an 80. And so that's kind of how the math works out in the end. And then as you see, I say this every time, but when we get to division needs, as the projects effectively become more local, or at least the funding for those projects is kind of more locally constrained, the weight of that local input goes up. So each planning organization is required to have a methodology by which we assign these local input points. That's kind of one of the hallmarks of the whole process, is that it's data-driven and easily traceable. So we don't just kind of have a random, here are the projects we're assigning points to. We've got to be able to point back to how and why we came to those determinations. This was approved by both this body and then the TAC earlier this year. But just to recap, we use these 4 criteria to determine kind of our draft list of which projects rise to the top to get local input points. First, the quantitative score. If that part isn't high, then it's really not going to be that competitive. We have a mechanism for division support. This is kind of the likelihood that the division would also put points on a project. County priority, the workshops I keep mentioning, we meet with each of our 3 counties and divide the projects in that county between these 4 categories. Again, trying to make priorities of our priorities. Now that we have scores and now that we see costs for projects, which ones truly matter the most to members of the county. And then the last one is kind of a mechanism for project development. So if there's been a feasibility study, if it's been in the STIP previously, or maybe it's currently in the STIP, if there's already right-of-way underway, kind of acquisition getting started, maybe it's a sibling project. So we're widening up to a certain stopping point, maybe an intersection, and that part is funded. The sibling project would be kind of continuing from that stopping point. Classic example, NC 211 in Brunswick County. Part of it is currently in the STIP under construction, and we're submitting the remaining sections of that corridor, things of that nature. We take those 4 criteria and we weight them thus. If you want to see, it's in your packet, but I'm going to put it here in the chat, how this all shakes out in the end. I put it into a big spreadsheet and kind of color code it over the top, as I am prone to do. And then we get kind of a list of kind of a new ranking of these projects. And, oh, sorry. Again, per our methodology, this is how we determine which projects get points. We take the top 2 scoring highway projects in each county. We take the top 3 scoring non-highway projects across the full RPO. And then all of those get kind of maximum allotment of points up to 100, or if they're, we don't have 100% of the project in our boundary, up to whatever number that is. And then the remaining of our points just simply go to the remaining highest scoring projects, kind of regardless of mode or location. And so, again, you've got a memo in your packet, but I'm going to break down each of these to show you what draft point assignments we have. So for the top 2 scoring highway projects in Brunswick County, the first was widening to 11 from Sunset Harbor Road to Midway. And this is one that we share with GSATs and talk to them. That segment at least is 88% in the RPO and 12% in GSATs. And both planning organizations intend to put their full allotment of those points. And the second highest scoring Brunswick County highway project is along NC 87 and BSL, adding some turn lanes to a couple of those intersections, kind of in between where the bridge is and north of 50 Lakes. And that one, of course, 100 points. Next, the top 2 scoring highway projects in Columbus County. So upgrading US 74 to interstate standards. This is another shared project with Lumber River RPO. I have confirmed that their methodology also intends to put their share of the points on the project. So that's why we have a 52-48 split. And then widening of NC 87. This is up in the kind of northeast corner of the county. And that's connecting to another project that's underway. So 100 points there. And then rounding out our highway projects, the top 2 scoring in Pender County, upgrades to the roundabout on the island in kind of north of Topsail and Surf City. As you're coming off the bridge, that roundabout there on the island, doing some improvements to that, as well as modernizing US 117. This is going from Rocky Point up towards Burgaw. The proposed point assignments to the top 3 non-highway projects in the RPO. We've got 3 ferry projects. So constructing additional ramps at both ends of the Southport to Fort Fisher ferry route. We're proposing a full 100 points, which would include, it's a 50-50 split between the RPO and the Wilmington MPO. So that'd be a 50-point donation. And then same, I'm going to just jump to the bottom one still on that route, replacing the operations building and the visitor centers again on both ends of the route. That would be 100 points total, us donating 50 to the Wilmington MPO. They also have in their list of point assignments another ferry project where they're doing the same full 100 points with 50 points coming to us. And then that middle one, ferry projects are a little wacky in how we do this. Projects that benefit the Mans Harbor Shipyard, which is obviously not in our RPO, are submitted and kind of considered equally by the 5 planning organizations that have ferries. This one scored well and rose high in our methodology. And so it'd be full 100 points from us and donating the kind of the share of the points to all the other planning organizations that are connected to the ferries. And so still coordinating those point donations. But that's how that shook out. And then that third kind of category in our methodology is simply remaining points to the next highest scoring projects, regardless of mode or location. So you've got upgrading the interchange or the intersection to an interchange there at US 7476 and Mako Road near Sandy Creek and Northwest. You've got similar upgrading an intersection to an interchange 17 and 211. Again, that's another shared project between us and GSATs. Roundabout at the intersection of 410 and US 7476 Business in Columbus County. That's Chadburn area. And then connected to it, another intersection, 76 and 410. And then in Burgaw, intersection improvements to NC 53 and 117 bypass. And then the last one is the intersection of US 17 and NC 210 in Surf City. That's getting 43 simply because that's what's left of our allotment. And I mentioned this. So just like we have a couple of proposed point donations, a couple from Wilmington MPO. I mentioned that bottom one from the Southport Fort Fisher ferry. The middle one is the rail project, establishing passenger rail from Wilmington to Raleigh. That one rose, it was high in our methodology, but also high in Wilmington's. And since they submitted that project, they decided to put the full 100 points and donate everybody's share along the corridor. And so our share of that project is 16%. And so they have proposed a 16-point donation. And then that top one is upgrading US 7476. Most of that project falls within the WMPO, just 11%, and the RPO, and they're donating our share of the points to us. I know I'm hitting you with a lot of information, but last thing I want to do before opening up for some questions, there are a few deviations from what our methodology would require, and I'm just going to explain what those are. Again, this is stuff we want to have on record in case down the road anybody has questions or concerns. So H090287, that's the upgrading US 7476 to interstate standards. That one would have been our number one other to receive full points, but we didn't assign points because the WMPO donated them. The rail project, as I mentioned, that would have been our number 2 scoring non-highway project to receive points. But again, we bypassed that one since we were receiving a donation of points from Wilmington. These 2 ferry projects would have been number 3 and number 4, but I would propose skipping them simply because the first ferry project that we assigned points to, which, sorry, my notes are scattered, which was the constructing ramps. These 2 separate project IDs, one of them was just the ramps at Fort Fisher and just the ramps at Southport. But we're already putting points on the project that does both of them. So it seemed unnecessary to put points on all of them because we're just doubling up unnecessarily. This project, the 231106, that's the dorm facility at Mans Harbor Shipyard. It would be the number 5 non-highway project, and so outside the scope of our top 3 non-highway. But since we've skipped numbers 2, 3, and 4, that's why it was included in that set of 3. And then lastly, the 230648, which was the operations building and the visitor centers getting upgrades. Technically, that one is our number 7 non-highway, but I would propose skipping the number 6 simply because that F250420 doesn't include both ends of the ferry route. And since this is a project that would require points from us and Wilmington and PO, even though we're donating them, I think it makes more sense to go with the project that includes improvements on both ends of the ferry route. So as I mentioned, there's 1 or 2, I think mostly just the Mans Harbor Shipyard that I'm still coordinating those point donations with some of the other planning organizations along the coast. And then going to present the same list to the TAC next week. But any questions or comments on those proposed point assignments, or how we kind of, again, questions about the process, how we came to those decisions? I know I just blasted you with the fire hose of information, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. Hearing none, that's either really good or really bad. We'll do the same exercise for those of you that were at the workshops. I think we had them all in July, of kind of assigning the high, medium, low, kind of that discussion of kind of trying to rank them or put them in kind of priority categories. We'll do the same thing with our full list of division needs eligible projects. And we have those workshops scheduled essentially the first 3 Tuesdays in October. So Columbus on the 6th. And then on the 13th, we'll be in Pender County, and the 20th in Brunswick County. If you didn't get a calendar invitation or a heads up, I think I mostly just sent out a save the date type of thing. If you didn't get that, please let me know, and I'll forward that along to you. And then as we get closer to that meeting date, I'll have more kind of documentation or information to review ahead of time and before we get into those workshops. But if there are no questions, I need a motion, or I need this group to recommend approval of these to the TAC, who will meet next week. Is there a motion to recommend approval of these draft point assignments?
I move to approve.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion from Jeremy. Oh, and seeing in the chat from Nicole. Nicole, is that a second? Wonderful. Okay, so I have a motion from Jeremy and a second from Nicole. Any other discussion on point assignments for P8 projects? Okay, hearing none, I'm gonna roll call it. Helen Bunch,
Yes.
Mo Meehan,
Yes.
Nicole Morgan, thank you. Robert Lewis,
Yes.
Josh Ward. Actually, wait. So Josh texted me. He had to hop off for something else. Marcy Waters,
Yes.
Ron Meredith,
Yes.
Jeremy Smith,
Yes.
Eric Ritzel,
Yes.
Philip Hart,
Yes.
Nazia Sarter,
Yes.
Greer Templar,
Yes.
Tom DeBridney,
Yes.
Yvonne Hatcher,
Yes.
Stephanie Ayers, who I think also had to drop off. And then Sam Boswell, yes. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, and if you have any questions in general, not only is this in the agenda packets, but on the RPO's website, we've got a prioritization page that try to have all of these relevant lists and kind of documentation put there, so you have a one-stop shop if you need to look anything up. Okay. Next item on the agenda, it's really just an information thing. Wrapping up fiscal year 26, in order to kind of make sure that where we were spending RPO funds aligned with the details in our planning work program, which is essentially the RPO's budget. I made a couple of administrative modifications, and essentially that just means that the dollar amounts moved between our budget categories were small enough to not trigger the need for a formal amendment. And so you have that kind of memo and then copy of the PWP in the packet. I just wanted to provide that for record keeping sake and transparency. The amounts moved were, again, as I said, small enough that no official amendment was needed, which would have been a review by this committee and then approval of the TAC. But still, for information, wanted to include that in the packet for your reference. Are there any questions about this item? No? Okay. We roll on. Okay. Just lastly, a couple of things from me before we get into our DOT reports. So pedestrian safety call for projects. Most of you will remember last year, a similar call. This is for projects in small urban or rural communities. Kind of think impactful but low cost. So marked crosswalks, kind of improvements for pedestrians at intersections, maybe small segments of sidewalk, but preferably not where you would also need to buy a lot of right of way, for example. I'm going to put in the chat a link to DOT's page that has all the information you'd need for this. This call for projects is open through August 28th. So it's 4 Fridays from now, 3 weeks from this Friday. And there's a link to a form to submit project requests. And one thing of note, anybody, if you submitted projects last year when they had that call for pedestrian safety projects and those projects were not selected to move forward, if those are still priority projects, you should submit them again. And if you need help going back and checking which ones you submitted, I have a list. So if you have questions throughout this, over the next couple of weeks, if you got projects you want to submit or you want help kind of putting a project concept together or deciding between projects, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help either kind of whittle down a list, or if you want me to submit them, happy to do that as well. But just sent this out in an email a couple weeks ago, but wanted to again follow up and make sure that it was on your radar. Any questions about this particular item?
Sam, I could just expand a little bit from the previous round just to give some extra information to everyone. I was managing the projects of the last round that had gone through. We had a total of 13 projects that were selected to move forward. That was out of our whole division. We allocated about $1.9 million to those projects across them. Our range was roughly between $35,000 to $400,000 in terms of project cost. We were a little bit over budget than what we were originally allocated for. The tough part on our end, getting into this next round, is understanding what projects are going to be submitted and then moving forward to selection. So it's tough for us to know if that range will stay consistent to the next round. There's kind of a lot of uncertainty in terms of, because it's an open call for projects, there's not a minimum amount. We definitely are going to try to be strategic in terms of what we see and what we can review. We get assistance from regional traffic as well as the division to review these projects together. So we definitely want to encourage people submitting them, but just realize that it is a bit of a competition in terms of the scoring matrix that gets set up, and we might not be able to allocate every project, but we are going to try to prioritize those first ones that got selected in the first round because of the amount of preliminary engineering that was done on them, that we can still move forward with those to be successful. And I think you covered mostly in the scope of work there. So I'd be more than happy to help as well. If someone has questions, or Sam, if you'd like to reach back out to me, I can try to help out. But that link to the application itself is the first step that needs to take place in order for that project to start being reviewed and considered. So.
Good deal. Thanks, Eric. Next update. This is something I failed to include in the packet, so I wanted to make sure it'd be here on the slides, and these slides will be posted again in our meeting section on the website. But these are just kind of these monthly updates we get from either kind of tweaks or changes to things in the STIP, just to highlight what they are. First one is Brunswick County, the section of NC 130, just adding rumble strips along the sides. It's a safety project. The next one is pedestrian improvements, the intersection of NC 210 and Alston Boulevard there in Surf City. The last one is pedestrian improvements along a stretch of Franklin Street in Whiteville. If you have questions about any of these projects, feel free to reach out. But this is kind of a typical update to include. I don't have additional information on these projects at this time, but I'd be happy to look into it further if there are questions. And the last thing I had, just to review the remaining meeting calendar for the year. We have a TCC meeting on the 7th in October, and then on the 11th of November. The only change to this is actually the TAC date, which was moved up a week in October. It was the 16th, and now it's on the 9th. Much quicker turnaround between TCC and TAC than we typically have. But that does it for staff updates from me. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I went over? Okay, hear none. We'll move on. And it's kind of a fake move on because I'm not done talking because Stephanie had to jump off. And so she texted me that the update that they have from the ports is that the ports were awarded the 2026 build grant that they submitted at the Port of Wilmington, which was to build an off-terminal parking area. This will give workers at the port a place to park without having to drive into kind of the main busy part of the terminal. They'll park essentially across the street, and then they're going to build a pedestrian bridge to go over the road and drop everybody kind of into their working area. But that eliminates some, conflict points between freight coming in and out of the port with just folks driving in for work or for folks walking in from their car where they parked. So should be a massive safety improvement as well as improvements to efficiency, kind of separating a lot of those various traffic streams there at the port. We submitted either a letter or a resolution supporting that, as did some other planning partners in the region. And so thank you to this group on behalf of the ports. So they were able to get that funded, which is awesome. Next, updates from the ferry. Also, I don't think Melissa was not able to join. The update that she had, the primary update was that the ferry has this survey open. There's a QR code on the screen, but there's also a link to it in the chat. They're doing an economic impact study, the Ferry Division and ITRI at NC State. If you feel so inclined to participate and fill out the survey, that would be fantastic. But that was the main thing passing along from the Ferry Division. For both ferry and for ports, of course, if you have any questions, their contact information is on these slides that will be posted. I'm also happy to be a go-between if needed. And with that, Division 3, got your updates queued if you want me to click through them.
Hey, Sam, it's Adrian. I'm going to present these real quickly.
Okay.
If you'll move forward. So we have two projects in development that are going to be let this fall. Those are two Pender County bridge replacements. As you'll see, we have several projects in development that our development team is working on, but those are the two coming up in this next calendar year. If we could move on to current construction. Thank you. We have two projects that are about to fall off. So one is the replacement of a bridge in Brunswick County, and the other is Pender County bridge replacement. So those are pretty much finished. We're just waiting on some vegetation to be completely take root. I don't know how to explain that any better, sorry. And then we have our 211 projects at 70% complete. So that project has been moving really fast, and I'm grateful to see that. And we do have those other 211 projects that we put into the spot process. So hopefully those will come along and get funded as well. But the last project on this list has not really started just yet. It is an economic development project at the Brunswick Columbus County Industrial Park, and it's just to build a connection there. And we can follow up on that next month or next meeting. And then lastly, we just have projects in that are maintenance, which are, yes, I'm sorry, I always forget that we have the list of those. And then projects in our maintenance, which are resurfacing, preservation projects. As you can see, some of those are coming to a conclusion and some of those are at 0%. So those are more or less kicking off with pre-construction and meetings. A lot of those are also rumble strip projects where we're including rumble strips along some sections that we see a lot of road runoff crashes. So we're adding those, and then some ADA curb modifications that are part of this fiscal year's budgeting. And then lastly, we have our map of highway maintenance improvement projects that anybody can go online to see what's in our 5-year development plan. And then our each time we meet, we're trying to share resources such as the project, the information that Eric presented on, and this was our prioritization map. The open public comment period is now closed for July. It closed last Friday. You can see in this screen depiction how people can vote yes or no on a priority if they wanted a project. This is going to, all this information is going to be compiled and provided to divisions so that we can see which projects the public really wanted. The map is still available online if anyone wants to see which projects we were competing with across the state. It really does give you the big picture of when you think about funding and these projects. And then you can see the scores, the projects, and then this will be available again when we go through the division point scoring. So anyway, just wanted to share that that is something that we are going to be using. We used for this public comment period, we'll use again, and we'll be collecting those and sharing with our POs as that information becomes available. Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Adrian. Anybody have any questions for Division 3? Okay, not moving along. Our Division 6 report.
All right. Good morning, all. You can hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good deal. All right. This is just a map kind of showing the boundary of the RPO. We're Columbus County, kind of over to the left area, tying into the Grand Strand at the bottom. So our next slide is we'll get into some of our title sheets of our projects in the Columbus County area. The first one there has been on the list for a while. It's the interchange. We're converting an at grade to an interchange. That's at the intersection of NC 87 and NC 11. We've got we're about 3/4 of the way done on that one. They're working to establish vegetation. They're paving some areas, and they're working on the bridge structure, that final surface prep. We've still got the revised completion on that is early 27. Our next project is our next two projects are the highway or interstate maintenance projects, HI 18 and 16. They're both pavement and bridge or structure rehab projects. They're both ongoing. The first one here is at 92%, and that stretches along the US 74 corridor, minus the projects there located in the middle of our 5819 and 5820. So that corridor is kind of getting some rehab performed on it. It's about an 18-mile project. And again, we're 92% complete with the estimated completion of June of 27. Our next one is again along that same corridor. The majority of the work is in Robeson County, just a small portion in Columbus, but we're roughly 3/4 of the way done on that with the same estimated completion date. So we should be complete well before that date. Our next project is in Columbus County, and it's over Nils Eddy Road. We're 86% complete on that. Estimated completion is November of 26. Hoping to have that done before then. But we'll probably have this removed from our next report because the contractor's working to address those final punch list items. Moving on to our next one's a roundabout. I'll say on the south side of Whiteville area on US 701 Business, Madison Street and Lee Street and Franklin Street. Just getting kicked off there with some about 15% complete on that with erosion, drainage, utility type work going on. Estimated completions towards the end of this year. And then the remainder of the report is just a list of, I'll say HMIP or highway maintenance improvement projects that mainly consist of some type of roadway treatment, whether it's a preservation, resurfacing, maybe some milling, widening, minor widening, things of that nature, some RPMs or raised pavement markers. So there's just the status and percentages and what information there. And then that's kind of followed up with some of our list of future projects in the area and the schedules and estimated cost. So my contact information is at the bottom. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. Thank you.
Good deal. Any questions for Division 6? All right, appreciate it. Next, TPD updates.
Hello, thanks, Sam. Yeah, so for Pender County CTP, we have gotten the report back from our vendor, like the visual report, and we are reviewing it internally in TPD. The next step is for the report to be updated after a review and go out to the steering committee, including Sam, for their review before the public involvement sessions start for the CTP. So it's towards the end of its life because after public involvement sessions, we'll start preparing for adoptions. So that's where that CTP is. And then there's a cool link that I provided for everyone. It's called the North Carolina Intercity Bus Service route map. It kind of shows all the routes throughout North Carolina, like the ones that we offer for daily service. And there's several that actually go through the Cape Fear RPO area. So I thought that would be cool to kind of share with the TCC and kind of see, how vastly it expands. And then on a personal note, I am leaving the department, and I really enjoyed working with all of you, especially, as everyone can agree here, Sam is the best to work with. And I've been working with the RPO for 11 years now. So it's sad, and I will miss the work that I do with everybody here. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I wanted to thank everybody. And that's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nazia. I'm gonna miss you, but I can't talk about it right now to keep it together. Okay. But truly, Nazia has been a fantastic TPD partner, and her presence will absolutely be missed. Last of our report, well, not last of our reports, sorry, but from various DOT branches. In your packet, it's actually the last couple pages of your packet, is a memo or updates from Campbell from IMD, Integrated Mobility Division. And so you have that there. If you have any questions on what's in there, feel free to reach out to either him or me. I will outline or highlight one of the things in there under the grants awarded section. It was called CON-CT or CPT. This was a transit grant awarded to Columbus County Transportation to kind of partner with Bladen County actually, and do some additional funding for transit service that kind of benefits a couple of corridors that are heavily used between those two counties. That was something that we submitted a letter of support for earlier this summer. So yeah, good to see that coming into the region for one of our partners. And then yeah, just a few other updates there in the memo from Campbell. Some of our bike and ped planning grants underway in Burgaw and Surf City, and he's also got information in there about the pedestrian safety call for projects. So as you look through that, if you do come across any questions, his contact is here on the screen. And again, feel free to loop me in or send me your questions, and we'll forward it along to IMD. From there, Greer, do you have any updates for us from the Wilmington MPO?
Hey everyone, good morning. Similar to Sam, as I'm sure many of the rest of us in the room, still continuing to work through local input point assignment for regional impact tier projects. We are actually getting into the final few months of our Safe Streets and Roads for All comprehensive safety action plan. So that is going to be the final plan and recommendations will be presented to our board this month, with adoption scheduled for consideration in September. And coming down the pipeline soon is we are currently undergoing the scoping process to begin a regional resiliency improvement plan for surface transportation. So stay tuned, we'll have some more details, but we're looking forward to it. I think that's all I have today. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, thanks, Greer. On the same note, Tom, do you have any GSATs updates to share with us today?
Nothing too major. Chris Clark, our new MPO director, is also on if he wants to chime in. Kind of running through some of the same stuff that you are at the RPO, getting into PA, LIP, looking at those pedestrian safety, call for projects. We are in the very initial stages of our next MPO-wide transportation plan, our MTP. But all in all, kind of just plugging along.
Okay, good deal. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Our last thing, any questions, any comments, any last things to bring up before we close it out?
Would anyone be able to stay on from Oak Island? I think Taylor Davis was originally on, just for after the meeting. I had a quick question.
I can.
Thank you.
Good deal. Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, going once, going twice, then it is 12:02 and we will be adjourned. Thanks everybody for being here on a Wednesday, and hope you have a great rest of your day and great rest of your week.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam.
Thanks everybody.
Just give it a second.
All right.
Ron is jumping off.
Yeah, and then